It's going to come down to, and again, I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going. It's going to come down to the weapons. They have weapons, and where Winnipeg's got good, but they're not quite the caliber of the machine guns. You know what I mean? And I think if you go back, and I'm going back to my point, when the Avs are friggin' flying like they were right after the deadline, and they're playing the real game, I don't think Winnipeg can handle that.
It's the playoff preview you've all been waiting for. Avs versus Jets, round one. Jets with home ice advantage. Avs still a good team, though. Gonna be an interesting one. I think us as a group of four are the most divided on our predictions for this one. So I'm curious to see what everyone's thoughts are. Let's start with Winnipeg's side of this one. Obviously, they have the season sweep on the Avs, but you should know already, we don't put a whole lot of stock into regular season records when it comes to the playoffs. Don't overthink that one. That's all I'm going to say there. When you're talking about Winnipeg, we all know what their biggest advantage is. It's the guy in net. Can there be any hope for Colorado that we see a version of Hellebuck like we saw in the playoffs last year, who struggled, who felt like he was a little bit run down? Or are they going to have to go through a beast in net?
They're going to have to win low-scoring games, I think, because Connor Hellebuck is just too good this year. He's a great goaltender, and he's having a career year. I mean, he's been unbelievable this year. He's been the best goaltender in the league by a pretty wide margin.
Yep.
You're talking about the best goalie against the highest scoring team. It's a classic playoff battle. And in the history of all sports,
the goaltending side.
Nobody has ever said offense wins championships. So, it's a situation where they're going to have to outscore their problems here. And they're going to have to do it against the best goalie in the league. If they get through Connor Hellebuck, I have confidence that the Avs can make a deep run.
Same.
And if they don't, it'll be because Connor Hellebuck shuts the door. It's not the rest of the Jets that I'm so worried about. It's a tough matchup still. It's a good hockey team. A couple of guys having absolute career years that are very, very good, but it's about Bucky.
Agreed.
Yeah, I feel... You all know my prediction for the series. I feel, though, like AJ said, if they can come out of the first round, I feel really good about their path to the Cup. This feels like such a big test, and it's not to say the rest would be easy, but it is because of the concerns in goaltending for Colorado that I am a bit worried. I feel like when they've had another good goaltender opposite them in games, no matter who the goaltender is, if they're good that night, it has created a problem for the Avs.
True.
They will create chances after chances, and it's like it gets in their heads a little bit. Even though they're creating, the quality of their creation starts to go down. And that's where I see the vulnerability for Colorado. And then what has been a pretty good offensive team in Winnipeg. It's been, maybe more so middle of the road for goals for, because Hellebuck's goals saved above expected is quite high. Defensively, the Jets also have vulnerabilities, and their special teams aren't as special as I usually see playoff teams, at least for the regular season going into the playoffs. That could certainly be a different story for them come game one. But because of that, it all goes back to goaltending. I know we've talked about this at length throughout the season, but this is one of the most intriguing first-round matchups for that reason, because I really love what the Avs have done this year, what they've built, and how they look on paper against other teams. But goaltending has proven to be a problem for them.
Well, those are all great points. I think it comes down to special teams. The Avs have the edge. Defensive core, the Avs have the edge. I don't care what people say. It's not.
100%.
Yeah, spread out scoring is, there's Winnipeg's done a great job this year, but again, they don't have the top end guys that are referred to all the time. And the big difference is in net. I mean, it is a huge difference. Now, with that said, do I think that all the other pluses overcome that negative? My answer is yes. and that's why we know my predictions. I picked the Avs, and for that reason. But when the Avs are rolling, when the Avs are playing like a well-oiled machine, like they were right after the deadline, and when the roster's healthy and they're going, I think they'll be able to overcome the Bucky factor. You know what I mean? And I think he's going to be incredible. I don't think he's going to be weak, but I think the Avs are going to have to A, play to their potential, B, play the real game. When they play the real game that Bednar talks about, and checking and 200-foot game, and to go on top of their, call a spade, absolute like artists, like up front. Like I'll even put Druin in there because you call him Picasso.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have stuff that Winnipeg does not have. So it's two different teams built in way two different fashions. And yes, you're right. This is the classic goaltending versus superstars. I think that's what it comes down to.
Just to reinforce both of your points, Winnipeg, the best team in the league at not giving up goals at 5-on-5. They average under 2 goals a game against at 5-on-5, but a bottom 10 penalty kill in the league. The Avs have to be successful on special teams if they want to win this series. It's not, it would be nice. They have to win that battle. There's no doubt. You guys talked about some of the top of their lineup. They aren't putting up astronomical numbers when you look at their top 5 scorers. There is, with Winnipeg's side of it, though, no one there doing anything crazy. And I know, obviously missed games, injuries, and point per game paces are a little bit higher than those numbers might indicate. It's not like they're going to score you out of the building unless, you get 7-0 in a game where the Avs don't even try. But hopefully that doesn't happen in the playoffs. Do the Avs have the pieces to hold Winnipeg's offense back?
Yes, they're so much better defensively than we've seen in this matchup this season so far. Like, I look at what has brought Winnipeg's success against the Avs just in the regular season, and it has been the Avs' own mistakes and the kind that are uncharacteristic of them. Winnipeg has capitalized on moments of weakness in the Avs, a broken play in the offensive zone. They're playing too deep, and Winnipeg just activates off the rush, and the Avs have not defended so well in like this very last stretch of games defending on the rush, but it's not been a problem on the whole of the year. And I think in that matchup, specifically in the regular season, it was emphasized, but that's not the story for the whole season for the Avs. And so if they can button things up defensively, because they didn't finish terribly defensively this year in terms of scoring chances allowed, it was pretty middle of the pack. And then in looking at the possession game, it was still a strength of this Avs group. So all that to say, though they didn't fare well in their matchup with Winnipeg in the regular season, I think the mistakes that they made are the kind that they can overcome because I've watched them do it so many other games out of the regular season.
I agree with you on everyone but the guy in the crease.
Yeah, and I want to jump into that. Like, and I know, like, when you're trying to convince yourself that you're going to buy this thing or buy another thing, like you convince yourself, you look at stuff that convinces you to do it, So, of course, if you want to pick the Winnipeg Jets, you're going to say, look at the regular season. You know what I mean? And I think I've said it all along. And again, you guys can back me up here. I say it all the time. I don't give a shnikes about head-to-head in regulations because you don't know what the lineups were, what 3 and 4 back-to-back. Plus, it's in the regular season. Everything goes out the window. When you go play Sunday golf with your buddies and, I shot 76. It's great. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the same. Then all of a sudden you're in a real match and, you know what I mean? Or it's the Masters or whatever. That 3-foot putt's not the same one. It's for real. It's for everything. The playoffs are nerve-wracking. And why I pick stock in the Avs in this one is because I know they've done it. And for me, that is so valuable. And Winnipeg Jets I don't think they have anyone that's ever done it. So I think that is my big factor right there. You know what I mean? And again, that's why I say not because, and again, if the Avs would have been great all year long against, I would have said, throw those numbers out the window. I don't care. I'm not being biased here. That's what I'm trying to say.
Either way.
I think you guys can back me up on this because I say it all the time. But I think that when push comes to shove, the playoffs are so different. It is such a different thing mentally and physically. And some people just can't do it. They can't elevate their game, and some can. And I think the Avs, we all know, that their top end guys can do it. That's why they're here. That's why they're signed long term. That's why they are who they are. And but am I looking for some guys to step up like the Coltons, the Woods, and the who knows, right? We'll see. I'm excited to see that who can elevate their game and who can't, because some will disappoint you. It's every year. It's not an easy cakewalk. Playoffs are freaking tough, and I'm looking forward to it. For that reason. And I'm not saying that Edmonton's not going to do it, but I'll tip my hat if they do it, and then they beat the Avs guys to elevation of their game.
I love the idea too of players disappointing, but also the possibility of players surprising you.
Yes.
Because I don't think we've seen the best of Miles Wood.
Nope.
And I think that he was brought in and built for a playoff run and being a little bit of a menace and bringing some energy that could be an unexpected or fully expected from the front office surprise for the Avs.
I love the angle of surprise, and my X factor for Winnipeg is, we'll get to the Avs one in a second, but we already talked about Hellebuck. But to be honest, goaltending is the most volatile position in maybe all of sports. If Hellebuck surprises and doesn't play very well, Winnipeg is in serious trouble.
Yeah, if he's just mediocre,
yep,
the Avs, it opens the door. He has to be exceptional.
Yep. And if he is, the Avs might just lose the series. Yeah. Nothing they can do. So it's where that is. On the Avs side of things, look, they have Ross Colton as our X factor, as Eric was just talking about. Let's be real. When you're trying to beat an elite goaltender, when you're trying to get through a playoff round, yes, Nathan MacKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, you can rely on those guys. You expect them to get theirs. But where is the other stuff going to come from? You need somebody to step up. And maybe it's not Ross Colton. Ross Colton kind of just the face of the Avs forward depth for this playoff run. Maybe it's Zach Parise. Maybe it's a Miles Wood.
Like that.
But they're going to need goals out of those guys. Not every night, not every game, but here and there to get past a team like Winnipeg, to win a 3-2 game. The Avs need their depth to produce at some level.
Well, in order to do that, because I love that point, because you know what? I've been there. And I've been there with superstars, and then you want to help out because you feel it. You know what I mean? Because the amount of pressure these guys get, and the amount of attention these guys get, the amount of critics, you know what I mean? Like if they go 3-4, imagine Nathan MacKinnon goes 3-4 games without a point. It's the end of the world, right? And guys like Russ and Woody and those guys, like if you don't, but it does creep inside you because you want to help them so bad, because you want to make sure that part of the reason why you're going to win is because those guys are so elite, but you want to help them do it. Because if you don't make that step or make that play like you're saying, then you feel you failed them. You know what I mean? And that's why I love team sports. You know what I mean? Like you can help guys like that so much and elevate the pressure. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's why I think the Avs injected some new blood last year, like Megan said, like you said, I think it was important to inject some new blood. And, again, I feel that those guys have that pressure because it might not be external, you know what I mean, in the media, but it is an internal pressure where, gosh, I want to help those guys out because they're so special. You know what I mean?
One of the reasons why I like Ross Colton as that X factor, Colorado's depth last year was useless against Seattle. And
non-existent.
There were a lot of reasons for that. Some of it was just that they weren't good enough.
Brad Hunt was playing it forward.
Some of that, Dennis Mulligan's not in the league anymore. Some of it was injuries and other things that happened to hurt the personnel, and some of it was just the personnel just wasn't good enough.
Yep.
But you look at the difference this year. Your center depth going down the middle goes from Nathan MacKinnon, JT Compher, Lars Eller, to Nathan MacKinnon, Casey Middlestat, Ross Colton.
Yep. Just objectively better.
It's a pretty big step up. And one of the big appeals there of Ross Colton is, as Eric mentioned, this is a guy who's been there and done that.
Yep.
He's made deep playoff runs. A couple of them.
And you talking about a big goal? You talking about a big goal? He scored a huge goal, friggin' back then.
He's a guy that has had big moments in the postseason as a depth guy. He's excelled. He's thrived in this role. One of Winnipeg's great strengths as a team, Adam Lowry is the best 3C in the league this year, in my opinion. Ross Colton is pretty good.
Yep.
Now, there have
for
been
a 3C.
It's been hit or miss defensively at times as he is adjusting to being a full-time center. He's a good player, but you look at the totality of it, that third line in general, Miles Wood, Zach Parise, Ross Colton, if they want to make some changes here, Brandon Duhaime can slide up into that. The difference in their bottom six this year versus Winnipeg versus the group that lost to Seattle last year is enormous. It's an enormous difference in terms of actual talent that belongs in those jobs, belongs in the playoffs, to be honest with you. And Ross Colton needs to have a good series. He needs to be good. He needs to not get crushed in his matchup. Even if there isn't a lot of offensive production, box score production, Ross Colton, Miles Wood, Zach Parise, those guys need to hold their own as a line. And the season that they just had, it gives you some level of confidence that they can. You aren't walking in going, oh, God, this is a big disadvantage.
Yep.
Like you were last year, where it was, can Nathan MacKinnon get the Avs? Can he drag the Avs through this series and beyond? It's, can these guys give Nathan MacKinnon just enough help?
So here's my question then with that, you mentioning Adam Lowry. I think it's pretty clear. The Avs get the check mark for their top line. Their top line is better than Winnipeg's, full stop. I think it's pretty clear. The Avs defense as a whole is better than Winnipeg's. Maybe not quite the gap that you see with the Avs top line as some of the best players in the world, but I would give the check mark to the Avs defense over Winnipeg's. I think it's pretty clear. Winnipeg's getting the check mark in goal. There is no argument to be made about that. Who gets the check mark for your bottom nine forwards?
Boy, I mean,
I threw Lowry a Selke vote. Like, I actually really like him
go.
as a player. But I love the addition of Trennan and Duhaime.
Sure.
I think it makes the Avs, whatever the fourth line will actually end up looking like, so much better. Like, I kind of have to go line by line instead of bottom nine. I think that's a little bit tough. I don't know what to make of the second line yet. I don't think we've really seen the second line for Colorado. I think Winnipeg's second line is great. I don't think we know what to make of Colorado's second line at the moment and how it will hold up in the playoffs. I think that it can only go up from here for Colorado's second line, but I don't know that for a fact. Third line's a little tough for me because I also think those are both really good side by side, and then I give the Avs the edge on the fourth line.
Okay. No, it's well said. I mean, Lowry is awesome. I mean, he's awesome. His dad was awesome. Plays like his dad. He's got more talent, more size than his dad. But they're character guys. You know what I mean? They're guys that bring it, and there are guys that bring it in playoffs. You know what I mean? Like you know he's going to show up. You know when I talk about pushback all the time.
yeah,
This guy's got pushback. You know what I mean? He knows when to push back. He knows when to stop momentum. He knows when to make a game-changing play. You know what I mean? Whether it's a hit or whether it's a block or whether it's a play. You know what I mean? This guy's their engine in my book. You know what I mean? Like, and I know Scheifele and those guys, but these guys is their emotional leader, and you know way more than I do because you've been there a lot more times than I have in that building, and you feel it. You know, you feel it when this guy's on the ice. You feel it. You know what I mean? And I think he's their key guy. You know what I mean? But I agree with Megan. You know, it's a little bit of a mismatch. Their third line's amazing. What do they have? Like 30 or 40 goals or something like that, or 50 goals, whatever it is. It's absurd. It's going to come down to, and again, I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going. It's going to come down to the weapons. You know, they have weapons, and where Winnipeg's got good, but they're not quite the caliber of the machine guns. You know what I mean? And I think if you go back, and I'm going back to my point, when the Avs are friggin' flying like they were right after the deadline, and they're playing the real game, I don't think Winnipeg can handle that.
I want to believe you, Eric, but the elephant in the room here, there have been plenty of nights this season where a BB gun is going into the Avs net.
I know. That's what
don't
I said.
talk about me like that, Rudo.
But I here's what I'll say, because I said I'm done talking about this friggin' thing. I'm done talking about the goaltending. Like, here's what I'm thinking. I'm the worst in numbers out of the four here because I'm not smart like you guys. I'm going to say there's probably a 75% chance in my mind, that the guy that's starting the series, he's not the guy that's finishing the series. So I said it. There you go. And that answers the BB gun question right there for me.
I mean, I don't really.
It could be a pipe dream.
I don't really. It's just a matter of it has to get done if the Avs want to take themselves seriously in this series, no matter which guy it is.
No matter what, you can't win with bad goals. It's impossible.
Yep.
So I'm crossing my fingers and I'm hoping for the best. And AJ's looking at me sideways.
I think perhaps our feelings on this matter are represented in our predictions.
Yeah,
for this
I know.
series.
I have to defend myself.
Go ahead.
It's goaltending, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm letting Eric speak on the subject, and it's because I do agree with the concerns that all of us have with goaltending, but I'm just not sure it's something the Avs can overcome if it's even a little bit of a problem, because we've never really seen goaltending this season only be a little bit of a problem. When it's a problem, it's a big problem. And now the margin of error is paper thin because it is a best of 7. And what I worry about is where Georgiev has been fallible has been mentally.
Absolutely.
And in looking at the mental fragility of both these teams side by side, I don't view Winnipeg as a mentally fragile group.
Nope.
And I don't view the Avs outside of goaltending as a mentally fragile group. So it comes down to this one area that I have this worry that can sway a series in such a big way. I don't have that worry about Hellebuyck mentally, but I do with Georgiev. And if the pressures of a best of 7 are too much for him to handle, don't think they can come back from that. I think that Justus Annunen is a wild card in that sense. He could be an X factor because I have seen very different postseasons from Justus Annunen, at least at the American League level, to clarify. I've seen an excellent first year, and I've seen a really challenging in this last year in the Coachella series. He gave up 5 in the first game and didn't see the net for the rest of it.
Yep.
That's tough.
It is.
And so that's why I don't know what to make of Justus. I think he has actually pretty good mental fortitude for what it's worth.
I would agree.
But the experience is where it's a question mark for him. So all that to say, because Winnipeg has gotten such reliably good goaltending, and that's what it comes down to in my eyes, I think it's going to be a hard-fought match, and it's going to come down to that, and I have Winnipeg coming out of this. However, I want to eat my words, so I'm prepared to do as much, and I want to. I'm just trying to be realistic.
Here's where I'm at with it. I think if the Avs can get even average goaltending, you are going to see the Avs' best players not take no for an answer. They're just going to go out and do whatever they have to do. If you can get average goaltending, I'm not super confident that they can get average goaltending. And if they don't, the Avs could lose this series in 4. That would not shock me.
I'm seconding you. I'm saying the same thing. And I think I showed my cards like 5 minutes ago. That, for me, the 4-1 prediction is just that. I think there's a change. The other guy comes in and it's a blur because you're so naive and ignorant. You know what I mean? Like, because
kind of the Aiden Hill effect from last year.
I was just going to say it. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and last year I remember I ate my words every time because I'm like, each series I'm like, I'm going to take Hayden Hill against like whatever. And I'm like, not a chance. And then I'd be like, oh God, I'm wrong. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm just saying, and again, I'm not wishing any, I hope Georgie's awesome. And, you know, I think we all agree, right? That's not,
that's plan A1.
We're just doing predictions here, right? So that's just, I just think that there's a change in there somewhere. And I think the other guy goes and I believe, maybe it's my Avalanche 1.0 hat. You know what I mean? That I was here not for all those years, but I'm saying that I witnessed it, and the Sakic's and Forsbergs, and, you know, and Blakey and Burke and Bork, you know, they're so good. Did they make it to the finals every year? No, but they were damn close all the time. And I just feel that power like that is such an asset for an organization. And we just witnessed it. You saw Nathan McKinnon. I mean, that's, God, he did better than Joe Sakic. I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy, you know. So I think this is you're seeing this freaking guy that's he's not human. I think you're gonna see a guy, because last year we didn't see it.
I want to touch on this briefly, because AJ mentioned it the other night, which I guess these are posted out of order, but it doesn't matter. If, and this is a big if Nathan McKinnon has another level in the playoffs, we might see something ridiculous. Like,
Oh, no, I agree with you.
Yeah, we've seen such
That
a
was my point
ridiculous
here.
regular season.
exactly.
That's my point 2 seconds ago. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, I think it's ridiculous. It's absurd what you're seeing out of this guy right now. And I'll say one more thing. Cale Makar had a bad year with 90 points. Like, are you serious? Like, because we're so used to seeing those guys up there. Like, Cale made a bad play, and then all of a sudden you see it in his face. It's like, oh, my God, it's a 5-1 game. Who cares? But these guys care so much. You know what I mean? Like, it's amazing. It's amazing once you taste it, and I'll just add one more thing here. I told you guys that before. 1996. Those guys are wired differently. The McKinnons, the Makars, like, and I'll use Mac as the most, and I'll compare him to Patty, your favorite player growing up. You know, I'm an LA King. I'm in 96 in the dressing room. They just won the Stanley Cup. I don't play for the Avs. I'm obviously there because it's my family. I want to go nowhere near that dressing room. I don't belong in there, but I get pushed in there, and it's like, you know, because, oh, it's your family, you know, so I'm in there, and I find the training room. I go hide in the corner. My guy's there, Patty. So I'm comfortable with them because I've grown up with them, so it's easy. They won. Like, they've been in the locker room for 10 minutes. And this is a true story. All he's talking to me about is how they're going to repeat next year and who's gone and who we're going to go get. And again, I ended up being there that summer, so I felt privileged. But I'm looking at this guy. This is his 3rd Stanley Cup, and I'm like, he's excited. He's happy. But he's pumped about how they're going to repeat next year and who's going to leave and who's a free agent and who's going to come in and what they need to do. And I couldn't believe it. And I was like, wow, these guys are wired differently. They are. And I do believe McKinnon is the same cloth as Patty, you know, and when it comes down to that.
Yeah, for those guys, the journey is the destination. It's the chase.
It is.
There is no moment of true satisfaction.
It's just
It's
the
not.
next journey.
The satisfaction is in the grind. And it takes something special to be that. It kills me to pick against these guys because, again, like a core belief of mine, those guys rise to the top.
Yeah.
But, and maybe this is just that I've been so close to the Avalanche all year, but
I know.
I've also watched a fair amount of Winnipeg Jets hockey, unfortunately, in my life. And
He's torn. He's torn about it.
I hate this. Connor Hellebuck is at the top of his game. When you stack up the best players in the series, in the top five best players in the series, Connor Hellebuck is the only Winnipeg Jet there. He's the most important one.
It's true.
And I think he's the difference maker in the series. Winnipeg's team defense is better than Colorado's. Team defense is better than Colorado's. Fair. Colorado's offense is a shade better. But what I have problems with the Avalanche is that within games, they don't stop the bleeding. The bleeding turns into...
1 turns into 2, turns into 3.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it never, it gets out of hand for them. Their in-game maturity and emotional maturity has not been good this year. When they lose games, do they lose them. And the couple of bad stretches of games this season, they've had a hard time pulling themselves out of it. Team meetings haven't helped. Andrew Cogliano's magic veteran sauce voice in the locker room. It's not working. Yeah. It's not strong enough because this team, it's missing something. There's a something about this team that is missing, that over the last 20 games, I've stopped believing that they're going to win the cup. And this, for my money, was the worst matchup that they could have gotten in the first round, simply because of Connor Hellebuck. He's the best goaltender in the NHL. He's the best goaltender in the West. And having the best offense in the NHL is great. I don't trust it. Their special teams advantage, I don't think, is going to matter, because...
And they won't win if it doesn't matter.
That's right.
I think that there's a different level of hunger in Winnipeg this year. And I don't believe I won't pick them beyond round 2
Same.
because Mark Scheifele's kind of a derp, and I'm not as that guy being part of your leadership core. I think he's never going to win anything. I don't think he has the goods. I think he's too emotionally volatile. Nathan McKinnon is driven and locked in and focused and all of that. And I don't think any of it will matter in the end because Connor Hellebuyck is special. And he's just that guy. And he's that guy playing that at that level. And I think they're going to have a really memorable round 2 exit. But I think they get to round 2 and Colorado doesn't.
I like the raw emotion. I really do. I appreciate it. I do. I respect it. I can't argue it, right? I just hope you're wrong. You know what I mean? You
I
see
hope
what
I'm wrong too,
and
but-
that was my next line. And I know that I hope you're wrong. That you hope you're wrong yourself. You know what I mean? And I know that. I know you enough. But I think that was spot on. And it's hard to argue. It's hard to argue because you're bang on.
All right. Well, will Eric and I be on the copium, or will Megan and AJ happily eat their crow at the end of the series? Put your predictions for the series down in the comments. There's a reason they play the games. You never know what's going to happen. Go watch the rest of our previews if you want to know more than just Avs Jets. We've got every single first round series in this playlist that you're watching right now.
We all silly like the mayor.